Hey guys!
People, this time I'm gonna continue my mini-series about Kang the Conqueror, and we are now at part 3, which is Ramatut. Now Ramatut was created by the legendary duo of Stan the Man Lee and Jack the King Kirby, and this is among of the oldest variants of the character, having been created all the way back in 1963. Now I'm really not gonna cover the origin again, because you know my other videos about Kang, and I don't wanna sound redundant. Now again, I'm only gonna cover some ground stuff, like through his research, Nathaniel uncovered the abandoned fortress of the benefactor, and also uncovered many weapons, machines, and a fully functional time platform. However, before Richards could use any of his discoveries, he was attacked by the Fantastic Four of Earth 7712. The group was sent by the Time Variance Authority, or short TVA. My bet is you have already seen the TVA and the Loki TV show. Anyway, they were sent there to implant a Saturnine symbiote, which is a device that would prevent Nathaniel's future self Immortus from absorbing several temporal energies and become a temporal quantum wave, a feat Nathaniel's future self was trying to accomplish many years ago from his own personal history. However, Nathaniel was able to seemingly slay this alternative reality Fantastic Four, so the TVA sent the Reed Richards rocket group of Earth 8212 instead. Now that reality's Reed Richards was convinced that Nathaniel, Reed Richards convinced Nathaniel of their shared lineage and also talked him into willingly implant himself with the Saturnine symbiote, having been brought to agree to stop the threat of future self. Now there's this common theme that Kang is his own biggest enemy, and by that I mean his various versions always trying to fuck each other up. So in one moment it might be Immortus trying to screw over Kang, and in the other it might be Kang trying to screw up Immortus, because they're just at such different points in life and have different experiences. Also, I'm not familiar what a Saturnine symbiote is. I know Saturnine from the Captain Britain comic, but I don't want to flex here with my knowledge because I don't know everything. Well, anyway, their mission accomplished, the rocker group returned to their own reality and left Nathaniel to his own devices. So, of course, he built his own time machine and decided to travel to ancient Egypt, and his time machine is in the form of a sphinx, or at least resembles a thing. Now, at this point, Nathaniel Richards, or Kang, isn't very well versed with time travel, especially not with like proper time machines. So he crash landed in ancient Egypt. I mean, he wanted to go to Egypt, but still he crash landed, where he warned the people about the coming of aka N'Sabanur, better known to Marvel fans as Apocalypse, which is a bit confusing because Apocalypse isn't the first mutant, but it was considered to be the first mutant at that point in time. As you know, the X-Men comics and stuff and comics in general have undergone so many retcons. Anyway, now with his vast technological superiority, Nathaniel conquered easily Egypt, declared himself Pharaoh, and adopted the name of Ramatut, or the identity of Ramatut. He instrumentalized his subjects to worship him as a god, that they built statues for him and all of this stuff. And while this was mainly done, it still pissed off quite a few people, and especially the moon god Khonshu. Now Khonshu is important for Moon Knight, but you will see that because Khonshu would later empower Moon Knight, although it's not clear if Moon Knight has special powers or not. What is clear is that Moon Knight is a servant of Khonshu. But at this time in ancient Egypt, there is no Moon Knight, no Mark Spector, so Khonshu instead pushed the right buttons for Apocalypse to kick off a rebellion, or well, he was back then still known as N'Sabanur, so, and not as Apocalypse. Now, after that, a bunch of time travel shenanigans happened that pitted Ramatut against West Coast Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and a bunch of other time travelers, but it's so much and it would quite frankly blow the frame of this video. So the gist is that Ramatut got his ass handed by Apocalypse, ran back to the future with tail between his legs. He was then next seen building an alliance with Dr. Doom, but it didn't really work out. My guess they abandoned the plotline or whatever. I couldn't really find anything about that, and I haven't really issues. I probably need to buy some classic comic books. But the comic explanation was that Ramatut was caught in a time storm, so he returned to ancient Egypt, re-established his rule rule momentarily, and then he briefly returned to the modern age where he attended a meeting with the foes of the Fantastic Four. Now, after hearing that the Puppet Master, which is a lame villain kind of. Sometimes he's done alright, most of the time he's not, but he's a minor villain of the Fantastic Four. Anyway, after the Puppet Master proposed the pitch, Ramatut noped the fuck out. He was not having it and returned to ancient Egypt. It was during this time his kingdom was briefly visited by Doctor Doom again and the Avenger Iron Man. So both were from a few years ahead of their personal futures from their travels to ancient Egypt. The Doctor Doom and Iron Man were quickly plucked out of the time before they could remember any prior encounter with Ramatut. Rama once again tried to return to his own era, but the time storm trapped him in the modern era again, this time a few years in the future from his last visit. With his time machine damaged, Ramatut couldn't simply go to another time, but captured another time traveler from the Earth 4935, but this time traveler simply refused to help Ramatut. So the former Pharao decided to torture the time traveler. Now the time traveler's name is Blacksmith, and he was ultimately rescued by Cable, who you probably remember from Deadpool 2. And as you know, Cable is a mutant, a mercenary, and also a time traveler, and also deeply linked to Apocalypse, the guy who beat up Ramatut. Now, despite all of this that I just told you, Rama escaped into the time stream once again. So after all these experiences, Nathaniel Richards took on a new moniker, which is the Scarlet Centurion. And normally I would leave it here, but this isn't the end of Ramatut, you know. So this is going to be the first half inside my miniseries, and I'm of course gonna cover Scarlet Centurion next week, and then I'm going back to Ramatut and explain what happened after his period of being the Scarlet Centurion. So you enjoyed this video. I know some of it was messed up. I'm not used to speaking freely, so I've trained again to do that, and I still hope you understood everything and that you enjoyed it, found it informative. If not, tell me what I can do better and I will see to it. But yeah, this is gonna be it. Goodbye.
Now get the fuck out of my driveway.